What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Chris Evans here, live on this Tuesday morning here on August 11th at 9:32 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wanted to fire up a live video here, as we've done the last couple of days, kind of covering an active weather pattern here, not only in Kentucky but in the entire Ohio Valley. Just kind of wanted to cover what the rest of today looked like, as we do have a severe thunderstorm watch that you can see here on the Kentucky Mesonet website, in pink in northeastern Kentucky, and we'll cover all of that here in a second. We still have that impressive heat and humidity still around, so I kind of wanted to cover that, the heat and humidity for western and central Kentucky today, and then the severe risk. There is an enhanced risk level 3 out of 5 that is posted, so there is a lot going on. And then in green here, on the Kentucky Mesonet website, you can also see where we have the flood watch that is posted here. And that is along the I-75 corridor. So again, we have a lot going on in Kentucky. Wanted to cover everything here. Just as always, as I get this going here, just want to make sure that you guys can hear me clearly here. So just leave a thumbs up in the video or leave a comment to let me know that the audio is working correctly. And again, we're looking here at the Kentucky Mesonet website. This is looking at air temperatures across the state. And you'll see across the state, we're in the low 80s right now. But we do have a lot of things going on. So again, out here in this kind of, I would call it an orangish color, is where we have that heat advisory that's in effect for the next 2 days until Thursday, for heat indices up to 100 degrees, 110 degrees. I know yesterday, even along the I-65 corridor, we had heat indices that are reached or approached 100 degrees. So we'll continue that today, but especially out here in far western Kentucky. And then if we go across the state, you'll see here in central Kentucky, we kind of get split. We're still having to worry about the heat, but we don't have the heat advisory. But out in far eastern Kentucky, anywhere in green here again, and it's also where you can see the pink. But out here far eastern Kentucky, we do have that flood watch for repeated rounds of showers and storms as we get into today, tonight, and tomorrow. And then where we have this kind of pinkish color is where we have a severe thunderstorm watch currently, and that is going to go until 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this is for kind of wave one that looks to kind of track, but we're going to look at all this here in a second. So again, looking at the camera down here, Kentucky Mesonet website, I'll take you around the state before we look at radar. If we look here, this is looking at Hardin County in central Kentucky. You can see clear skies, not much going on in central Kentucky. If we go out here to the western part of the state in Graves County, again, you'll see not very much cloud cover. Extreme heat and humidity is going to be the story until we get into the evening. But if you're in far western Kentucky, you're not going to see much storm activity today. But if we go up here to like Lewis County, far northern Kentucky, that's where you can start to see some of those stratus clouds, even some cumulus clouds as we get up towards Cincinnati. And that's where you can start to see, if you're starting to see any cloud activity right now, you're likely going to start to see some storm activity as we get into the afternoon. So again, what I wanted to do is go step by step here. We'll start with the SPC outlook as we get into today. And that's where you can see the level 3 out of 5 enhanced risk is posted, especially for Indiana and Illinois, the upper Ohio Valley. But that enhanced risk does get extended all the way down here into Kentucky along the I-75 corridor. So I definitely think the I-75 corridor is most at risk today in Kentucky. You'll see zoomed in here to Kentucky where the enhanced risk, the level 3 out of 5 risk is. And I definitely think that the SBC is doing a good job highlighting where the track of these potential complexes that we'll look at here in a second. But again, anywhere in this orange is where I definitely think you have an elevated risk for a damaging wind threat as we get into the afternoon and evening hours. We could even get some storms here in far eastern Kentucky. We'll look at radar in the next couple of hours. But again, looking at the SBC, we do have that 2% tornado risk, and that is basically for the entire MCS. We could get some isolated, quick spin-up tornadoes in a setup like this, but not worried about long track tornadoes or anything like that with an MCS complex. The biggest risk for today is this 30% SIG-1. The SIG-1, this hatching that you see here, is just the potential for significant wind gusts as we get into the afternoon and evening hours. And again, that definitely looks to center here across central Indiana, and then everything will move southeast, especially along the I-75 corridor as we get into the afternoon. And we don't have much of a hail threat here at all today. So that's kind of our threats for today. I'm not going to get into tomorrow, but I did want to kind of cover the flooding risk really quick before I go on. You'll see when we're looking at the excessive rainfall outlook from the Weather Prediction Center that we do have a moderate risk of flash flooding as we get into the afternoon and evening tonight. And that is just from repeated rounds of showers and storms that are going to occur, especially up here in far northeast Kentucky, from Indianapolis to Cincinnati to Huntington, where multiple rounds of storms look to occur. So I'm definitely a little bit worried about a flash flooding risk with multiple rounds of storms as we get into the afternoon and evening. What I wanted to do real quick was look at radar, and you'll see we do have that severe thunderstorm watch that I was showing on the Kentucky Mesonet website for far northeast Kentucky. Now, the good news with this is if I zoom in here a little bit towards Indianapolis, you'll see this little line right here, and I'll circle it, make sure you guys can see it. This line is an outflow boundary that is out ahead of these storms. So this outflow boundary means that this storm is weakening. This complex of storms that's approaching far northeast Kentucky is definitely weakening. It's going to continue to weak, especially on this kind of southwest side. You'll see this tornado warning up here near Columbus, which is interesting. We'll look at that in 1 second. But this kind of side of the thunderstorms are outflow based, which means they're going to be weakening as we get into the next couple of hours. So that is a good deal or a good news for far northeast Kentucky. But again, we have that severe thunderstorm watch up here near Cincinnati. Again, here are your probabilities for that severe thunderstorm watch. The biggest thing that we're worried about is 60-mile-an-hour winds, which there's a high probability of 60-mile-an-hour winds, and then 75-mile-an-hour winds. Low tornado risk throughout the day today, but especially with this first wave, we're more worried about the damaging wind threat. I did want to look at this tornado warning here near Columbus really quick. Kind of look, we have a terminal radar we can look at here on Weatherfront. We do have a tornado warning. Yeah, it looks like there might be a little quick spin up tornado here just to the west of Columbus. So we'll just have to watch these storms. You can tell how we have kind of enhanced wind field with this line of storms. Definitely going to have some damaging wind potential in the next couple of hours. I'm going to switch radar sites because this is just a terminal radar site. So we'll go here, but definitely watching this first line of storms here. Again, the kind of the part of the line that's going towards northern Kentucky is weakening, but this northern part, this part of the line up here is definitely starting to strengthen a little bit. So we'll have to watch that as it kind of goes towards Ohio and West Virginia. So again, this is kind of the first wave that we're watching here. The second wave, if I kind of zoom out, I'm actually going to just come up here and you'll see it up here near the Iowa and Illinois border. And what I'm going to do is we're going to get this to load, and then I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And you'll see how this complex, actually, I want to show this complex a little bit, and then we'll zoom out. This complex is really starting to blow up. You can see the lightning uptick with this. This is the beginning stages of our MCS, and this MCS is going to track all the way up here from Davenport, Iowa, all the way down through Illinois, through Indiana, and into eastern Kentucky as we get into the afternoon and evening hours today. Again, this is going to be I think today is going to be a windbag type of event. You can already see kind of the Boeing segment that's already taking place on radar here at 9:38. StormNet has some high wind probabilities going into Chicago here in the next couple of hours. So I definitely think Northern Illinois is going to be the first to kind of get involved in the show of this MCS complex here as we get into the afternoon. And if I zoom out here, I kind of wanted to show everything. Now, it's not going to kind of show everything, but you'll see again, here is our complex right now. I don't know why it's doing that, but here is our complex right now, all the way up here in northern Illinois and southern Iowa. And this complex is going to be moving to the southeast. And I got some things to kind of show you guys the track of this and all the good things. But the general track, that again is a terrible arrow, and I am really sorry. But the general track for this storm is going to be moving to the southeast. So if you're in places like Chicago, Lafayette, Indianapolis, or Cincinnati, that looks to be the track. But we'll have to kind of see the next couple of hours exactly how it tracks as we get going here. The next thing that I wanted to do was kind of look at some model data once I get all my wonderful drawings off here, but we'll look at some model data, kind of what to expect as we get into the afternoon and evening hours today. We'll let this load really quick. That kind of gives you a fast forward to Wednesday, because we do have a severe risk on Wednesday, but I did not want to cover Wednesday yet. I kind of wanted to stay on Tuesday, today's risk, because we have so much going on. Today we'll kind of lay the train tracks for tomorrow as well. So whatever happens today is going to have a significant impact on what will happen tomorrow. So I think just nailing today's forecast is the biggest thing for me, and then we'll worry about tomorrow when it comes. But we do have a severe risk that is posted for tomorrow. But again, here is the HRRR. We're going to look at some future radar, kind of what to expect as we get into the afternoon and evening. The HRRR is not doing a terrible job with this complex. This is the brand new 12Z HRRR, but you'll see how it is picking up on the Ohio part of this complex, kind of strengthening, and then it's not really even picking up on any of these storms down here in far southwestern Ohio, pushing towards Cincinnati. So it's not doing a perfect job, but it's the best that we're going to get right now. Again, as we get into the afternoon and evening, this is about 2 p.m. on Tuesday, you'll see how this line of storms, again, I'm going to back this up because you'll see this is at 11. Look at how quickly it's going to move here in the next couple of hours. By 2 p.m., it's going to be in central Indiana, and our complex from this morning will be pushing through West Virginia. So just from looking at this, you can kind of see the train tracks that are already being laid. Now, I will say the HRRR is a little bit too far north with this complex, but you can see the general train tracks from the complexes that's been laid, and that'll everything will kind of go in between these lines. Now, again, with the HRRR being a little bit farther north, I probably shouldn't have drew it there. I'm really thinking these lines will be about exactly where the SPC has them. I would say they'll be somewhere in between here. So I think if you're in between these train tracks, I definitely think you're at a more elevated risk for damaging winds for this MCS complex. But here in Kentucky, again, I think the I-65 corridor will probably be the dividing line as we get into the afternoon today. We'll look again. Well, I'm going to keep those train tracks kind of here. But as we get to about 5 p.m., you'll see how it was kind of moving. Remember, it starts all the way up here in Davenport, and it's moving southeast. However, model data has been hinting at, as we get into the afternoon, it start to sag a little bit further south. So we'll have to see, we'll have to watch radar as we get into the afternoon and kind of see when that south trend kind of happens. But as we get here to the afternoon, about 5 p.m. today, you'll see that MCS that, again, starting right now all the way up in Iowa, is going to be approaching the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky I-75 corridor. It'll approach, again, the I-64 corridor first. And I do think the HRRR might be a little bit too far east right now. I think it might be a little bit closer to Louisville than what it's currently showing, just because we have that morning complex that's kind of already working over the atmosphere in this area. But again, if that complex kind of dies off and we can build in some more instability, then I definitely think it could shift it a little bit farther north. So I definitely think from Louisville to Cincinnati is kind of the area that I'm looking at here. But I definitely think that we'll have to just kind of see how radar looks as we get to about, let's say, 2 or 3 p.m. And we'll have to see when it starts tracking south. Because, again, if I go back a couple of hours, you'll see how it's all the way up here northeast of Lafayette. And as we move through the afternoon, it kind of starts sagging a little bit south. And that may be because it becomes outflow based as well. So we'll just have to watch radar. Definitely think there's an elevated damaging wind threat as we get into the afternoon, though. But I think that the greatest damaging wind threat in Kentucky is going to be along the I-75 corridor, as we have highlighted here for the last couple of days. And the HRRR is showing that pretty well here. So here it is at 6 p.m. Line of showers and storms are going to be approaching the I-75 corridor. And again, you'll see the I-65 corridor might be the dividing line here today, just with how everything is kind of setting up, or we might have all the storm activity kind of happening out here in far eastern Kentucky, and then from I-65 points off to the west might be dry. But again, I don't want you to look at this and say, Chris said it's not going to rain here in Louisville. Everything's going to stay to the east. Well, I didn't say that, because there's still about a 20 to 30 mile buffer with model data, and I definitely think we need to use that today, just with kind of how this setup is playing out. So I like where the slight risk is placed from the SPC. We'll show that one more time before we end this video, but I definitely think the I-75 corridor looks most at risk for damaging winds and possibly even an isolated tornado. Again, the tornado risk is not that high with this. It would be a quick spin up tornado embedded within the line as we get into Tuesday afternoon. But The interesting thing that I wanted to note here was that was line 2, right? Going through the afternoon. Remember, we have that risk for flooding as we get into Wednesday afternoon. And this is the reason why here. As we get into the overnight hours, you'll kind of see how the HRRR has a band of rain and storms that kind of train over the same area as we get into the overnight hours. And this is again at 4 a.m. on Wednesday. And you can kind of see how everything just continues to move through the same area. And we'll have some cold pooling, which could enhance some rainfall as well. And if I just pause it here at 9 a.m., you can see how we have more storms that are going to come here on your Wednesday. But if we look at just the rainfall, the HRRR is showing, I think that's nearly 5 to 6 inches of rain in places where some of this training can occur. So I definitely think it'll be more of a localized flash flooding threat. And I think Cincinnati could be involved in that, but it definitely could be more of a central Illinois and central Indiana issue. But we'll just have to watch radar. Wherever that training happens, where that cold pooling happens overnight is where that flash flooding threat will kind of take place. I don't want to cover Wednesday yet. I kind of want to go through Tuesday, and we'll cover Wednesday briefly. Again, I kind of showed the overnight period. It does look like as we get into Wednesday morning, we might have a round of showers and storms in far eastern Kentucky. But again, I think the I-65 corridor might be the dividing line. I think if you're west of I-65, you'll likely stay dry. If you're along and east of 65, you're probably going to see some storms here. As we get into Wednesday, I think everybody's going to see storms, though. I don't think that it's just going to be an eastern Kentucky thing. I think as we get into Wednesday, the train tracks kind of get set a little bit farther west, and we'll likely see widespread showers and storms as we get into our Wednesday. So, again, I just wanted to cover Tuesday because there's a lot going on today. But let me look at radar real quick. And then I did want to look at some meso analysis to kind of see what was going on with that. And then I'll kind of leave you guys with some National Weather Service graphics. So that's kind of what to expect for the rest of the video. If you guys have any questions, again, right now is the perfect opportunity to put any questions that you have for any specific areas in the chat. I know that I covered a lot in this video. It's a very active weather day today, and it's going to continue that way here for the next couple of days. But again, looking at radar here, especially here in northern Kentucky, you'll see those showers and storms are approaching Cincinnati. But look at the lightning, right? So the lightning here, there's not much lightning, but when you get to closer to that tornado warning, that's where you see a big uptick in lightning. So I definitely think that the southern part of this line is struggling because it is outflow based. We showed that outflow boundary on the Indianapolis radar just a little bit ago. So I definitely think that the damaging wind threat might be further east with this line 1, and that's a good thing. However, we could still see some development here as we are getting some severe thunderstorm warnings for Columbus, Ohio right now. But we could see some additional development along that outflow boundary. Let me actually click over here. I want to look at that real quick before we switch over to meso. Again, you can see that outflow boundary pushing all the way into Indianapolis right now, surging out ahead of this line of storms. So this is definitely a weakening line of storms, but we'll have to see kind of what happens here in far eastern Kentucky. And this is just wave 1. We'll definitely have a wave 2 again with that line that is in Illinois and Iowa. I did want to look at that real quick because this will be the last time we look at radar before we kind of switch off here. And again, you can see all those severe thunderstorm warnings pushing near Chicago. I mean, this is going to be a windbag type of event. And again, the Boeing segments. Let me look at velocity real quick. This is just what to expect as we get into the afternoon, especially in far eastern Kentucky. Look at how impressive those velocities are. Let's see what radar is picking up on. It's about 50, we'll say about 60. So right now, radar is picking up about 60 miles an hour, 60 mile an hour wind gusts. With some of the Boeing segments that are happening. And again, this is going to move quickly towards Kentucky as we get into the afternoon. So right now this is pushing into and near Chicago, but as we get into the afternoon, it'll push into Indiana and eventually northern Kentucky. So I got one more thing I want to show here, and that is the meso analysis website. There can be a lot going on this website. So let me get exactly what I wanted to show, and then we will get going here. Again, if you guys have any questions, please be sure to let me know. And I will answer any questions once I get through this. So here's the scale analysis. So I use this a lot when I storm chase. It's just an overview of the environment right now. It's not taking in model data. It's actually what's ingested. So it's real time data on what the environment is capable of right now. And this is kind of looking at the damaging wind threat as we get into right now. And you can see this is looking at the duratio composite. Now, I don't want to say that this is going to be a duratio, but it's basically just looking at an elevated damaging wind threat as we get into the next couple of hours. And you can see how this is here's our MCS1. Let's start there in Ohio. And you can see how we have an elevated composite of about 4. Anytime you get to about 4 or 6, 6 is really when you start to get concerning. 8 is really high. But 6 and 8, when you start to get to those indices, is really when you start to get worried about some damaging winds. And with the duratio, that's more of like a long track damaging wind threat. And when we look at our first threat here, it's only a value of 4, and you can tell just on radar how it's kind of falling apart. So that's good news. Again, it's outflow based, so I don't think that this round 1 is going to be much out here in far eastern Kentucky, but we could get a rogue severe thunderstorm warning in the next couple of hours. But looking up here in Illinois at our wave 2 that's going to be approaching here into Kentucky here in the next couple of hours, you'll see how we have an elevated 6, a 6 composite that extends all the way near Chicago on kind of the southern flank of that MCS right now. And I definitely think that this MCS is going to be a powerful MCS. We'll have widespread 60 to 70 mile an hour winds, I think, from Chicago all the way into Indianapolis and eventually approaching Cincinnati. So again, the last thing that I wanted to show, I think this wave 1 model data is not picking up on this wave 1 very well. It's not picking up on this eastern extent of the rain. And the reason that matters is because wave 2 is tracking directly towards it. Now, these MCS complexes, they like to track with the Cape. They need fuel to kind of run them. And as we look right now, you'll see, we'll have to see if this rain, if it can reach down here to northern Kentucky, if it kind of washes out this environment. And if it does, what these MCS complexes kind of like to ride on the Cape gradient. So right where these lines kind of come really tight. And I know there's a lot going on right here. But this is just looking at our Cape values right now. And what I'm watching especially is this first line of storms that's in Ohio pushing towards Cincinnati. Can it work over the environment northern Kentucky and kind of push this line a little bit further west? We'll have to watch that. Of course, we won't know that until we get to see radar here around noon or 1 o'clock. But as we get to right now, you can see how we have 3,000 Cape building in right now. Again, this blue shading that you have is all around. It's just sin. That'll erode as we get to around noon. It's basically just a cap, not allowing storms to pop up or build. But as we get into the afternoon, this MCS complex up here in Illinois is going to track along the gradient of this Cape. So I definitely think here central Illinois, northern Kentucky, and northern Illinois are definitely most at risk. And again, we'll just have to kind of watch radar as we get into the next couple of hours. One more thing I wanted to show was, let's go ahead, we'll just show the bulk shear. So this is looking at our wind field above our heads. It's actually looking at the surface. Anytime you get to around 40 knots of wind shear, kind of it supports organized severe weather. And you can tell how we have around 30 knots with our first round over here in Ohio. But in our second round up here in Illinois, we have around 40 knots. And you can fast forward. And as you fast forward here, you can see how strong of a system that this MCS is going to become. Surface, you have bulk shear of 60 to 65 knots. And especially as we get to around central Illinois, central Indiana, you'll see how we have enough instability or enough wind shear and instability to support an organized MCS, especially here in Indianapolis. I definitely think central Indiana from Chicago to Indianapolis definitely looks most at risk. And then we'll just have to watch as we get into the afternoon how close that it will track here into Kentucky. So I do have one more thing I wanted to show here. This is kind of a zoomed in version of the SPC outlook from today, kind of covering everything that we just covered here. I want to get it to any questions that we had Let me get to that right now because I did see we had a comment in the chat. So again, really good time to put any questions that you have into the chat. Just got here. How's Somerset looking today? Great time for that question. So here is that risk from the Storm Prediction Center. You'll see Somerset is kind of in that slight risk right along the slight and marginal. I definitely think the greatest risk is a little bit farther north, kind of where I was showing that Cape gradient. I think the greatest risk will be from Indianapolis to Cincinnati. Maybe even Lexington. We'll have to kind of see how far south this MCS can get. But I definitely think northeastern Kentucky is most at risk today for storms. But we'll just have to watch. Somerset would be more late evening to the overnight time frame too. So being in southern Kentucky kind of helps with a later timing on arrival as well. So I'm not too worried about Somerset's risk for severe weather today. But looking again here at the National Weather Service Louisville, here's the key messages. A weakening line of strong to severe storms is forecasted to move southeast. Greatest potential for widespread damaging winds will be east of 65 and north of 64. So again, kind of that, we've heard that a lot here, I feel like, in the last month. But kind of the I-64 to I-75 or I-64 to I-75 corridor looks to be the best. Further southwest, we could have some damaging winds, but again, we'll just have to kind of watch radar as we get through that. Covering potential timing does look like it's going to move into northern Kentucky here around 6 to 10 p.m. Again, if you look this complex is all the way up here in Illinois. So for it to be reaching northern Kentucky around 6 to 10 p.m., it's going to be moving pretty quick here as we get into the afternoon. If it does reach the I-65 corridor, it looks to be around 8 to 11 p.m. And then if it does reach farther south than that, it looks to be, again, about a 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. issue. Here is, again, that excessive rainfall outlook. Most worried up here from the repeated rounds of showers and storms in far northeastern Kentucky along Cynthia and Cincinnati. If we do get several rounds of storms like the HRRR is showing overnight, you could see widespread 3+ inches. It won't be widespread. It'll be localized wherever kind of that training kind of sets up. But widespread amounts of about 1/4 of an inch to 1 inch of rainfall is expected everywhere else. And again, the flash flood threat could carry all the way into Tuesday night, and we have another risk as we get into Wednesday. So, again, if you don't see a storm today, it's going to stay hot and humid. We're going to have heat index values anywhere from 95 to 105 degrees with the highest west of I-65. There's still some uncertainty on where the highest heat index values will take place due to we don't know exactly where the storms are going to track. But if you don't see storms, it's going to stay hot. When you see storms, you could see damaging winds. That's the greatest way that I could put it as we get through here. So that is basically all I got for you guys here as we get into the afternoon. Again, if you guys have any questions, please be sure to let me know. I did want to go up here and show the SPC outlook one more time here. So here is that SPC outlook for today. Again, I think the greatest risk in Kentucky is going to be in the orange, where we do have that enhanced level 3 out of 5, and damaging wind gusts are going to be the main threat. There's a very low end isolated tornado risk as well. Could get a quick spin up tornado, but I think damaging winds are definitely the biggest threat. And then anywhere we see kind of that training of thunderstorms, we could have a flooding threat as we move into the Tuesday overnight into early Wednesday. So that is all I got for Tuesday. So if everybody's good on Tuesday, put a thumbs up in the chat. If I get 3 thumbs up, since most of you guys are just lurkers and don't put much in here, if I can get 3 thumbs up, I'll move on quickly to Wednesday. So I don't want to cover Wednesday that much because I just covered a lot on today. But if I can get 3 thumbs up saying we're good to go, I understand what you're saying about Tuesday, we'll kind of cover. Or if I can get 3 comments would be good too. I will kind of cover Wednesday really quickly here. As we do have a severe risk on Wednesday as well. So if we don't get that, I'm going to end the live. So we got 67 viewers in here. Again, I hope there's no little kids in here. But if we got 1 like right now, so if we can get 2 more thumbs up, we'll move on to Wednesday. But I'm going to move on to Wednesday anyways. I'm just trying to get you guys to interact here. But as we get into Wednesday, again, we have that risk today. But I did want to show Wednesday because we have covered Wednesday. Here is that outlook from the Storm Prediction Center as we get into Wednesday. And you'll see we do have a slight risk level 2 out of 5 from the I-65 corridor and points off to the northwest. again, this is going to be for another MCS complex that's going to kind of form here in Illinois as we get into Wednesday afternoon. And this will push towards the I-65 corridor, I think, as we get into the afternoon on Wednesday. So I definitely think this is not the last storm threat that we're going to have. And a lot of these places haven't even seen any storms here in the last couple of weeks. So I definitely think that we'll see that. We'll look at the HRRR real quick for Wednesday. Again, this is just, I don't want you to take this verbatim because it's not going to handle this perfectly. Because whatever happens today is going to be a big setup on what happens on Wednesday. Because again, as we get into 8 a.m. on Wednesday, after we get through all these rounds tonight, you'll see that the latest HRRR has widespread showers and storms in eastern Kentucky. If that's not here, then this is not going to play out the way the HRRR is kind of panning it out to. So we'll just kind of have to watch radar tonight to kind of see Wednesday. But I'll give you guys a snapshot into Wednesday. As we get into the afternoon, you'll see how the HRRR has a complex a little bit further east, kind of near Champaign to Indianapolis around 4 to 5 p.m. And then it all kind of congeals into a line. And as we get to about 8 p.m. on Wednesday, you'll see we have a line of showers or maybe even an MCS, a complex of storms approaching the I-65 corridor as we get into Wednesday afternoon. So I definitely think damaging winds, again, are going to be the main threat as we get into Wednesday. Oh, I'm not even showing my screen. That's just lovely. So let's go back here. Sorry, guys. Apologize about that. So here is the HRRR. Sorry, guys. So here we go. So the HRRR at 7 a.m. is showing that widespread rain, like I was just saying, and you guys couldn't see it. But if this widespread rain is not here like the HRRR is showing here at 7 a.m., then what the HRRR is showing for the rest of the day is probably going to be off. So I don't want you to take this verbatim, but I wanted you guys to kind of get a glance at what could happen on Wednesday. So we'll have kind of that shower activity move through Wednesday morning, and then we'll have this line of shower and storms approaching the I-65 corridor as we get into Wednesday afternoon and evening. Again, this looks to approach probably the I-65 corridor and points off to the west. And again, I think Tuesday's evolution is going to be very big on what happens on Wednesday. So I don't think that Wednesday, I think Wednesday's going, we could have some damaging winds, but it doesn't look like as much of a tailpipe or a wind field as we have today. But I definitely think some more scattered showers and storms look likely. Again, as we get to 9 p.m., they'll kind of move through, and then we'll have to kind of worry about any kind of flash flooding risk with any cold pooling behind this as we get into Wednesday. So again, a very active pattern, guys, as we get into the next couple of days. Again, there is that slight risk as we get into Wednesday, and then that enhanced risk for today. So definitely think the I-65 corridor is going to be the dividing line as we get into today. And Cincinnati to Lexington definitely is the highest risk for any of those damaging wind gusts as we get into the afternoon. I very much dislike MCS storm setups. Me too. I'll tell you, model data, it's so hard to forecast these because you know going into the forecast that model data is not going to handle it right. Like, you know that the model data is not right. So it's hard for me to even pick. I usually just pick the HRRR and just show the HRRR because no model data is going to handle it right. That they're all going to kind of have their biases. And if they don't initialize right in the morning or they don't handle the setup right in the morning, there's no way they can forecast right in the afternoon. So it's very important to just kind of look at the models and see in the morning which one is initializing right or which one is forecasting the environment correctly in the morning time. And once you kind of get that, we're good to go. So, sorry, guys, I just got a text message here, just kind of looking at this. Okay, good to go. Again, if you guys have any questions, please be sure to let me know. I definitely think the I-75 corridor is most at risk for any severe storms as we get to the afternoon and evening today. We do have that slight risk posted for tomorrow, but let's get through the evening and overnight setup tonight, and then I'll have another video as we get into tomorrow, and we'll kind of cover what could happen on Wednesday. So that is all I got for you guys. If we have no other questions, that's all I have for you guys. Again, today the timing looks to be around 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. along I-75. And then if you're south of I-75 or if you're along I-65, there's a lot of uncertainty whether you will see storms today. But we do have that storm threat that is increasing for tomorrow. And I definitely think tomorrow is a greater risk statewide, especially here in central Kentucky, to see some storms. So, again, that's all I got for you guys. I'll have another video for you guys tomorrow. And if things get active in the evening today, especially up here in Northeast Kentucky, I might have a video on my personal Twitter, Kentucky_WX, just kind of covering radar and what's going on. So, appreciate all the support. I appreciate everybody coming in here, and I hope y'all have a safe and blessed day today. Thank you guys, and have a great day.